Morning and welcome to Farm Boy Fishing Adventures. I'm Colby. Today we're going to do some lake fishing. So we got the kayak loaded up here in the truck and it's like 5:45. We're going to head off to a lake and hopefully maybe catch some fish. Maybe do a little catch and cook. So stay tuned, see what we do. Made it to the lake, so time to get it unloaded and we'll get down on the water. If you don't have one already, and you do a lot of fly fishing, get you one of these. It's just a leader straightener, a couple patches of leather and foam, and you just grab your leader when it gets all twisty because it's been stored in your reel for so long. Pass it through, and all it does is just give it a little bit of a straighten so it loses that memory of your reel, which is really nice, especially when you're throwing some of those dries that need to be presented nicely. Not that that's a huge worry today because I think we're gonna fish some streamers, but it's nice to have a nice straight leader that's not all coiled. Look at that, still a tiny bit, but for the most part way better than what it was. But yeah, to start, we're on a lake today. We're gonna try just a woolly bugger off the bat. It's a good go-to just to search some water and see if we can find some feeding fish. So we will start with this little woolly bugger here, black, kind of green chenille on the body, black marabou tail. Just nice little one. Should hopefully do the trick for any fish that are munching on minnows or leeches or whatever are swimming around in this lake. I kind of have an idea where there's a nice ledge, so we'll give that a shot and see if we can't find any. I like to tie all of my flies, streamers, whatever on with a non-slip loop. I don't know. I like tying the knot, and I find it helps present them a little better as they hang freely and aren't stuck to your line. So you just tie a little overhand knot, don't fully tighten it, just leave that loop there. Take your tag end, stick it through the eye of the hook. Once it's through, grab the tag end, go back up through that little loop you created earlier. Make sure your fingers aren't too cold so you have the dexterity to do it, because apparently I don't. There we go. Once you got through, I like to pinch at that loop, kind of loop the full length of your leader and your tippet through your other three fingers here, and then just grab this and continue to twist it around like 3, 4, 5 times-ish is all I do. Doesn't have to be too many. Once you get it around that many times, push it back up through that little loop you created. You're gonna gotta trap it and then wet the line and pull tight. fished the morning with a woolly bugger, and I don't know, a few bites, not a ton of action though. So fish are jumping like crazy. There's one right there. Fish are jumping like crazy. I can't tell what they're jumping on. There's all sorts of bugs out here. There's some midges, some mosquitoes. I think there's a few caddisflies, but not enough that I don't think it's what they're eating. There's a bunch of beetles actually too. So I don't really want to try the dry flies because I'm not 100% sure what they're doing. So I'm going to just try to slow it up a little bit. And I'm actually going to use this here. It's a balanced leech. So it should hang under the water just like that. And they'll pop it a few times and it'll look like a minnow that's kind of swimming. Because there's a lot of minnows here. Like you can just see them swimming all over the place. There's some right here to my left right now actually. So we'll try to mimic that with this, and it'll just slow it up. We'll stick it under an indicator, and they're not having to chase the woolly bugger across the lake as I'm trolling it or stripping it back. So this will just sit out there. We'll see if it works. Hopefully we can catch a few fish and try to do a little catch and cook tonight, because yeah, I want to try to eat some fish tonight. There's a fish. Oh, my big one. That's a fish. There we go. We got one on the board. Not very big, but nice little brook trout. There we go. Just about to sit down. Oh, this one looks better. Oh, yes, there we go. That's a nice brook trout. Ooh, don't take me too far into the weeds, guy. Ooh. Don't get wrapped around that weed. Uh-oh. We're wrapped around that weed. Oh, there we go. There we go. That's a nice brookie. It's a really fat brook. Ooh. Now this is a nice one. We'll get him up and show you. Oh yeah, there we go. That's a beautiful brookie. But we're probably going to eat him, so I'll show you how that's done. Here he is. I've already bonked and bled him, so I'll just show you how you gut him. The bonking and bleeding, whack them on the head and cut their gills. Easy enough. That's just what finishes them. I like to deal with my fish as soon as I get them in the boat. Kind of give them a little time to bleed in the water, but like within a few minutes I gut them, so it's all dealt with there on the lake. I can throw them in my cooler, throw them on ice, and get them home, and then they're good to go. So starting off, they have their vent here. That's where you're going to start. You're going to split them up the stomach all the way to where their gills kind of join their throat area there. You don't have to go too deep here, because then you'll be splitting the guts if you go super deep. But if you skin stuff or hunt or do whatever, you got to go through some muscle here to get into the gut cavity. So you got to go tiny bit deeper than you think. Like it's like, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch thick always. right here at these fins, there's some bones and stuff, and that's kind of where you have to go deep. You'll feel some resistance. Make sure you got a nice sharp knife. Sharp knives are what keep you from cutting yourself, because if you get a dull one and you're really hammering on it, fish are slippery and you often loop your thumb over here, and if you jam through, you'll cut your thumb. If you have to, kind of pinch in their gills to hold them. But yeah, we'll start here. You split into the vent and take it nice and slow. I always do. Just get that split going so that you're not, like I said, slipping up and catching your thumb. And yeah, just shallow, 1/4 of an inch, a little bit deeper than you think though, and just slide it up. Make sure you get all the way up to their throat, just like that. Some people will make some splits up here and then they'll just pull the whole thing out from there. I don't know, I just don't like doing that. I don't know why, no reason for it. It works, it's good. I just split them here, and then you can just grab basically all of their guts, their liver there, their heart, their throat and everything, their air bladder, their swim bladder, and throw it off to the side, unless you really want to dissect their guts and see what they're eating. But yeah, just kind of loop under, going in along the rib cage. You'll get yourself underneath everything right there. I'm under the air bladder. Pull up, brings out intestines, guts, throat, liver. I often find I can pull most of it out. The front end of stuff seems to stay often, which is not always too bad of a thing to deal with, because you just grab their heart, liver, pull it out, and then just get a really good grip on their throat there. I sometimes kind of put my other thumb inside and just kind of work it loose, but it'll eventually just rip and come out if you give it a good pull. There, some of it gave way. Oh, this one's hanging on real good. There we go. So yeah, that comes out, and you should have a nice clean trout. Last thing to do is to take the bloodline here and just basically use your thumbnail, wedge it against their spine, and push it forward. And it should just pile up, and then you can dip it in the water and shake it all out. So I wedge my thumb in, push forward, pushing against the spine, get it all the way up to the throat, and yeah, there's now a pool of kind of blood and grossness up there. Dunk it in the water, give it a little swish. Most of it came out. Oh, I left his heart. Get that out. But yeah, there is a nice cleaned fresh trout to go for dinner. Well, that works. Well, this one's a little smaller, but probably decent little eating size. He's 10 inches, so we'll probably cook him up, have him for supper tonight. Oh. There we go. There's another one. There he is. Yeah, that's another good sized eater. We're on 3. Well, actually, I don't even know how many we've caught now, but we're on 3 that we're keeping. So that's pretty good. I think we're at 5 or 6 on the day. I don't think I filmed a couple, but this one's not a bad one. Perfect eater again. So we'll get it cleaned up and put it in the cooler. There it is, a Another, yeah, just gorgeous brookie. Look at that. So the key with these, yeah, balanced leeches, I don't know, I always just stick them under an indicator and toss them out there and let them sit, get them sunk down to as deep as you want to get them. Try to keep them, I don't know, a foot or so off bottom is what I've always tried to do. I think you can suspend them higher or lower, but I know a foot, I figure, keeps it in the strike zone, but kind of gives you a nice pop when they come up and then sink back down to bottom. And if they're cruising higher up, it should be suspended high enough that they'll see it and come down to it, hopefully. But yeah, you just toss them out, sit and wait for it to pop. Every once in a while, I just give a little flick, and it gives that balanced leech a little action, so it looks like a leech or a minnow just hanging out there that's, I don't know, lethargic or wounded, and gives a little kick every once in a while. So yeah, that's kind of it to these balanced leeches, and hopefully we can tempt a few in with it. I've always found they hit them fairly quick. Like I don't let them sit for too long. Oh, there's a bite. I don't know, 5 minutes tops, and then recast somewhere else, because it just seems to be fairly quickly that they get to them. And I don't know, maybe that's just me being impatient, and if you let them sit, you'll catch a bigger fish as it comes around. This lake has brook trouts in it. Brook trout. Oh, just missed them. And I find their bite's a little more sensitive than rainbows. Rainbows really will hammer it, whereas brook trout, they just pop it every once in a while, and then you kind of got to be ready to set the hook as it bobs sometimes. Then sometimes they'll hammer it. But for the most part, brook trout, I find they're just that little bit more finesse in their bite than rainbow trout are. There we go. There's a fish. Nice. He's in the weeds, unfortunately, so we'll see. There's a nice football of a brook trout. Look at that bad boy. Sweet. Take that all day. We've picked up a new crewmate on this mighty ship here. This is my new first mate here, if he's going to show himself again. Yeah, there's a bee that just decided to hang out for the last 20 minutes. They call him the Brook Trout Slayer. That's just what he told me his name was. And so, if anything happens to me, that's the new captain of the ship. All the fish today have been kind of in a spot on this lake. There's kind of 3 pockets. So it's a horseshoe, and one horseshoe has a nice big deep pocket. The bend of the horseshoe, I guess, has a smaller pocket, and then the far other side of the horseshoe has a pocket but not as deep, like a fairly shallow one. In the past, I tend to have luck on the far horseshoe that's shallow. In the deeper area of that horseshoe, though, like it seems to be 14-15 feet that we've smoked them, but nowhere else on the lake. I don't know why that is. That's just been the case on the last few times. And then the last time I was here, on the bridges, I guess, between these pockets, on the humps that come up between the pockets, in between the horseshoe dips there, I guess, is where I've caught fish. You just literally rip over top of that, and they're posted up shallow and just smoking anything that comes through them. But today I've kind of found that at the drop-offs coming into the dip is where they are, but not just at any drop-off. They have to have like this weed edge by them, and that's kind of typically where I'd think they'd be. That would be my go-to the first time. But in my past experiences being here at this lake, I've had to fish deep for them. I've had to fish shallow for them. So that's just kind of one of those things where you gotta do some figuring. You take your best guess off the bat and then go from there. So here we're trying the middle pocket, I guess, of the horseshoe, and we're gonna see if we can catch a few here, but there's less weeds along the edge of these drop-offs on this one. So that's why I'm thinking it might not be as good as over there. We've had a few bites, but nothing's really hammered it yet or eaten it. That's the point that we can set the hook on them. There we go. There's one. Yeah, the one kind of weed edge it's got. Right where it was. Little guy. That's okay. Ooh. I was just kind of cruising through the middle with my line out and this guy bit. I wasn't actually paying any attention to it either. Seems like he's a decent size because he's really in the depths and he's pulling me down. Uh-oh, I got my indicator real high too. This is going to be an interesting landing if we can get him up. There we go. That is a gorgeous brook trout. This is another pretty nice one, and I think this one will fill our limit. So we are all set in terms of, ooh, he's still got some kick left to him. In terms of fish to fry, yeah, there we go. Nice, perfect eater size brook trout. So we'll eat him. Woohoo, that's pretty sweet. Okay, we are back from fishing. Actually, it's been a day, but fish have been in the fridge and we're ready to cook them. So this is kind of just the two basic ways I do it. The one is nice and quick, perfect to have for supper, and the other one's takes a little longer. It's kind of like a jerky actually. It's candied trout and it's really good. It's one of my favorite ways to do trout. So if you want a quick, nice, easy dinner, first one's gonna be great. If you want some snacks that are, I think, best way to have the trout, and you're willing to take a day or two to do it, that'll be the second one. So we'll start with the first one. First thing you're gonna do, get yourself a nice camouflage apron. I don't know why, food tastes better when you're in a camo apron. Then preheat your oven to 400, and you can get started right away on the trout after that. It doesn't take long to do, so start it a little before you're gonna start actually prepping stuff, and it should be ready to go as soon as you're done. So I'll grab the trout, get it down here. Here is our nice bag of trout. They've been cooling, or staying on ice, staying in the fridge, staying cool. All you're gonna do is get a nice sheet of aluminum foil and pick whichever trout you are going to cook in the oven. So we got this one, looks real good. If you want, and you're not happy with the way they rinsed on the lake, you can take them to the sink and rinse them off, or you can just pop them right down in your tin foil if you're like, yeah, whatever, it's all good with me. So yeah, take trout, plop it down in your tin foil. Once you got your trout down on the tin foil, next thing is butter. And I don't actually have the exact measurements for this. I kind of just go by vibes only, which is probably not the best way to cook, but yeah, get a little bit of butter, stick it in the cavity of the trout. So just right in its rib cage there where you gut it. It'll melt and kind of slosh around and go where it needs to go. So if you just leave a little clump in there, it should be good. But butter first. Next up, just some salt. This thing, the salt you can put on the outside a little bit and put a bunch on the inside. Try to get a fair bit so it coats all the meat on the inside. That should be good. A little bit of pepper. Again, I kind of just go by what I'm feeling. I'm sure there's a good recipe online that tells you exactly how much you're supposed to use, but I do a tiny bit of onion salt just on the inside, just for a little bit of flavor. It's probably good. Oven's done preheating. Then these next ones, you can do it with fresh or with the kind of like shelf-stable ingredients. I did have some fresh garlic and some fresh lemons, but I don't know where they've gone. So what we got instead is some garlic powder. At the end of the day, the trout tastes pretty much the same, and if you can get a nice flaky fish that tastes like a good clean fish, you don't need much of this anyways. But yeah, a little bit of garlic powder right in the cavity there. If not, use actual garlic. A little bit of parsley. Again, if you want, you can use some fresh parsley. If not, this dried parsley works just as good. And you don't need a lot of this, just a touch is all. And again, just right in that cavity of the fish. Just add a bit of flavor there. And then the last thing, most important, this is what kind of like brings all the best out of the fish, in my opinion at least. Lemon juice. Like I said, had a lemon, you can squeeze in half your lemon and then stick actual slices in the cavity when you do it with an actual lemon, and that's really, really good. But this is gonna do the same thing. So pour it in the cavity, pour it over the fish, and then she's good to go. So we'll just open it up, tip it on its back, kind of pour this in, letting it soak throughout the cavity of the fish. It will probably spill out of the fish onto your tin foil, which is okay because your fish is going to soak in that tin foil anyways. So that is basically it. Super simple. If you're not confident in your cutting abilities to fillet a trout, or you worry about the bones and stuff, this is a great way to do it. You don't got to do much cutting. You just got to be able to gut the fish, stick the ingredients in its stomach, fold up this tin foil, shove it in the oven. Like 10-15 minutes is all it needs, and it's good to go. The skin will come right off when it's cooked. The bones will come out. Super easy. If you really want, you can just caveman it and like corn on the cob it, but it's just one of the best, easiest ways to do trout. That makes a great meal that you'll be happy with by the time it's all said and done. So I'll fold this up, get it in the oven, and we'll see how it tastes afterwards. So that took a little longer than the 13 minutes I put it in for. It took about 16-ish minutes. I guess this is probably a little bit bigger of a trout than they'd go for. This is, I don't know, 17-inch trout, and they're probably shooting for a foot when it comes to most recipes. So yeah, like I said, you're probably best with a thermometer. I don't have one though. So now, most people probably don't want to eat just a baked whole trout. So what you can do, and this is where it gets super simple, is if you just stick it on like an extra plate that you've got, you can then remove certain things. Or if you have enough room in your tin foil here, like I actually, right, the skin will probably just come off if you can get a fork under it, or if you have to, you can just scrape it like this, and the skin comes off. If you want, you can leave the skin on and eat the skin. It's not my cup of tea, but I'm sure it's all sorts of healthy for you. So yeah, just nice light pressure, that skin will come off, just like that. And then you will have a almost full fillet there. Then what you can do, and this is what I've done, is take your fork and anything that you're like not wanting, like this fin here, in terms of presentation and eating, you can quite literally just kind of pry it out, and most of the bones and stuff will stick with whatever it is you're wanting to pry out. You can also just use a butter knife or a spoon to get into certain spots. So I'm gonna actually kind of go in here, scrape along, and pull out the top end of the fillet, and then I'll go along the ribs and take the belly out after that. And it should, for the most part, kind of all just work its way out. Or, if you want, knock the head off, knock the fins, knock the tail off, and it serves pretty good as the whole thing. But if you want kind of just fish chunks, this is not a half bad way of doing it. It glides through there like butter once it's cooked. I can feel the ribs, I can feel the spine. I actually think I'm on the other side of the spine right now. But that should fillet itself out once you get by the pin bones. Ooh, we might actually get the whole fillet here if we do this right. You don't need a sharp knife for this because it is all off the bone. There we go. It's just the front end hanging on. There. So right there, I thought I was gonna have to break it into two, but this is gonna come off as a whole. So you can pick this up. It's a little warm still. Slap her on your plate, and that is good to eat. Most of the pin bones come out with it in the fish still. Most of the ribs are still there. If you really want, flip it over. This is where you go with your tweezers and just pull out a few of those, or hook your fork underneath them, and they should, for the most part, pry out. You can trim some of that belly meat if you don't like it, but that is pretty much the most basic, simple way to cook a trout that I know of that turns out pretty good. So if you want, you can slap a little more lemon juice on it, but there's a piece of trout. It's hard to beat that. Pretty good, fresh tasting fish. Caught, cooked, delicious. I'm gonna add a little lemon juice to this, but for the most part, it's wicked good. So hopefully that works for you. Stay tuned for, I guess, the next recipe here. So the next way to do it, which requires a smoker and marinating the trout for a little bit, but makes excellent little snacks for trout, is doing the candy trout. This one you're gonna need a fillet knife, cutting board. I got a sharpener here to make sure my fillet knife stays sharp. It's a great way to, just get these little bits of candied trout. You will need to know how to fillet the fish, but you don't have to be that good at it because you cut it into tiny chunks, which is wicked. So quick rundown, there's plenty of videos to watch how to fillet a fish, to fillet trout, to fillet all sorts of different things. But in behind the head, in behind the fin, kind of at an angle that tips forward as you get higher up on its head, so it's further back on its stomach, closer to its nose on its head. Make a slice and kind of go in forward at an angle, just to get as much meat as you can. So I'll push that fin ahead and push in, and then from there I stand the fish up, stab in right along that spine, and then work my way back, staying in along that spine, kind of pushing a little bit towards the spine as you can, till you get to the very back, and then you can push the knife all the way through and work your way down towards the tail, pushing against that spine. Don't cut through the skin. You can, I don't, because it kind of helps to skin the fish afterwards. But by the time you're done, you should have a nice slice down the back, the head should be pieced out, and there's kind of a little free hanging spot there in the tail. From there, just work the tip of your knife down this slice in the back, and you'll cut through some bones. That's okay. You just want the full fillet taken out by the time you get done. So just keep working, keep nicking those bones, and by the time you're done, you should have a full fillet. If you leave the guts in the fish and you do this right away, I believe it's actually easier. So if you're like, you know what, I can do this on shore, that might be the easiest way to do it. But make sure you follow any rules there are in the regulations about taking fish home, because here I believe we have to have the head of the fish on so they can still see the size if there's a size restriction. But from there, I'll just work down, cutting through whatever I got to cut through. It's okay to leave bones in here because we're gonna, like I said, cut it out and take it apart. There is a way to avoid getting all these rib bones, but I am not great at that, so I just kind of slice and dice my way down. If you leave a bit of belly meat, that's okay, because we will cut off some of the belly meat. But once you get to the bottom, it should come fairly freely apart. Oh, I didn't cut all the way through at the head. Oops. The snake. There we go. That fillet should start to just piece itself out. You probably pull it apart once you get to a certain point. But there we go. Just like that. So now the fillet is off, but that tiny bit of skin is still attached. This is where that comes in handy. Instead of trying to grip their slimy skin, you can slide the fish back, hold on to the whole fish, or when you get to the other side, the ribs, and kind of just tip your knife slightly forward as you do, not so that you're slicing into the skin, but so that you're just scraping that skin. And it'll take the skin right off. So, attached by the skin, knife's gonna sit in here, tip forward a bit, lay it flat against your cutting board, and just work your knife in. And then, if you want, either pull or just slide your knife forward against that skin and cutting board and work all that muscle, all that meat off the skin. If you cut some skin and leave it on, that's okay. It's better than leaving a bunch of meat behind. So, there we go. And come on, there we go. Just like that. Nice trout fillet. There are some bones in this, so I'll show you how to take those out a little quickly. Just feel with your hands. If you really want, you can get tweezers and pluck them out, or just feel where you can feel those pin bones running through the fish. You'll kind of then see a little line there, just on both sides, and then you can pull the whole thing out. You can try to butt up against them so you can feel your knife going against them as you slice down, so you know you're getting as much meat as you can. I can kind of feel and hear it. Okay, and on the other side, perfect. Now this should just zipper right out of there. Come on, there we go. Tiny little bit left over. That's just extra waste. There's one left here. There. So now we have a pretty good size fillet, whatever you want to call it. I trim away a bit of that belly meat, especially where that fin is, and after that is done, you should be good to go. So once you've got just a whole fillet like this, pick whatever size you want for your jerky. I like probably like, I don't know, not very big, a couple inches long. Try to have it, if it's not like a thicker piece of meat, try to have it an inch wide. So like we're gonna go here on kind of upper in the back. That's a good size. You can see that. Stick it in a bowl. And if you're on the belly where it's a little thinner, that's a good size. Okay, once you've got all your fillets all chopped up into strips or cubes or I don't know, what do you call it, jerky pieces, then comes the marinade. Same thing, just as much as you feel like. 3 ingredients: salt, brown sugar, maple syrup. Enough maple syrup to cover everything. I try to go close to half, I guess, as you can get with brown sugar, and then salt just to preserve your jerky a bit. So give it a good coating of salt. I do that first. This is kosher salt. I don't know if there's any actual difference. I couldn't tell you. But whatever salt you got, toss it in there, mix it around. Before you stick your hand in the fish, get your brown sugar. Yeah, I just get a healthy helping. Just enough to kind of cover everything. That's good. That way. And then maple syrup, pour enough on that you kind of get enough to cover most of the fish. So right about there should be enough. Then if you want, plunge your hands in, mix that around, or use whatever mixing device. The fillets will probably be a little bit fragile because it is a flaky fish. So just nice and gently mix that around. Make sure there is brown sugar, salt, and syrup on everything. And then all you really need is 12 hours a day if you really want, sitting covered in the fridge, and then you'll slap it on the smoker. Well, we started it a little late, but pulled it out of the fridge after brining or marinating in that. Tossed it in the smoker. It is at 180-ish is where I've got it sitting. If you're there, it's probably about 4 hours. If not, if you can go a little higher than that, go to 220-ish. It's probably a little shorter, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Either way, looks good. Just toss it in, let it sit. I'll show you when it's done. After a few hours on the smoker, you pull it off and it should look something just like this. Just some nice candied, it's trout jerky is what it is. Honestly, it's my favorite way to cook trout. I think it's the best way to have some nice snacks for the next few days out of the fish you catch. So yeah, best one to try in my opinion. Thanks for watching.